Rohini and the Pesky Flies. In the great city of Benares, in the household of a kind and wealthy master, there worked a young servant girl named Rohini. She had the biggest heart of anyone in the whole house. She was always the first to offer help, the first to run an errand, and the first to volunteer for any task. But Rohini had one little problem that caused everyone around her great worry. She was terribly, wonderfully, spectacularly clumsy. Whenever Rohini tried to carry a stack of clay pots, they would come crashing down. When she tried to sweep the courtyard, she would accidentally sweep dust right into someone's face. When she tried to carry water from the well, she would trip over a stone and splash it everywhere. The other servants would shake their heads and sigh, but the kind master always said, "Rohini means well. Her heart is pure, even if her hands are a bit wild." Rohini's dear old mother also lived in the household. She was a sweet, gentle woman who had worked there all her life. Now she was old and tired, and she spent most of her afternoons resting in the cool shade of the kitchen courtyard. Rohini loved her mother more than anything in the world, and she always tried to make sure her mother was comfortable and happy. "Don't worry about me, child," her mother would say with a warm smile. "Just be careful, that's all I ask." One hot afternoon, while Rohini was busy pounding rice with a heavy wooden pestle, her old mother lay down nearby for a nap. Soon a swarm of pesky flies came buzzing into the courtyard. They landed on her mother's face, one after another, tickling and biting. "Rohini, dear," her mother called sleepily, "these flies keep landing on me. Could you gently wave them away?" Her mother closed her eyes, trusting Rohini to take care of it. Rohini looked at the pestle she was already holding. It was thick, heavy, and perfect for pounding rice, but terrible for swatting tiny flies. But did Rohini stop to think about that? Of course not. "Don't worry, mother, I'll get every single one of those flies," she declared. She raised the heavy pestle high above her head and swung it down toward the flies on her mother's face. Whoosh! The flies scattered in every direction. But the pestle kept going, crash, smashing into the water pot beside her mother. Water exploded everywhere, rice went flying, and the loud bang startled her poor mother right off her mat. Her mother sat up, soaking wet, with rice grains stuck in her hair, looking bewildered and dizzy. "Rohini, what happened?" she gasped. Rohini dropped the pestle and rushed to her mother's side, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, mother, I'm so sorry. I was trying to chase away the flies, but I used the pestle and I broke the water pot and the rice is everywhere and—" She hugged her mother tightly. "Are you hurt?" The old woman felt a small bump on her arm where a flying piece of pottery had grazed her. "Only a little bruise, child," she said gently. The kind master of the house heard the commotion and came to see what happened. When he saw the scene, the broken pot, the scattered rice, the soaking wet mother, and the sobbing Rohini, he shook his head but couldn't help smiling. "Rohini, Rohini," he said gently. "Your love for your mother is beautiful. But tell me, why would you use a heavy pestle to chase away tiny flies? A simple leaf fan or even your hand would have done the job perfectly and kept everyone safe." Rohini wiped her tears and nodded slowly. "I was so worried about the flies hurting you, mother, that I didn't think about what I was doing," she said. The kind master smiled and said, "Always remember, Rohini, the size of your action should match the size of the problem. A gentle breeze can scatter 100 flies, but a storm destroys everything in its path. Care and gentleness will always do more good than force." From that day on, Rohini learned to pause and think before acting, and she became the most careful and thoughtful helper in the whole household. Moral: match your actions to the size of the problem, for gentleness achieves more than force. The Boy Who Tamed a Goblin. Long ago, a wise Brahmin and his clever young son traveled from town to town, earning their living by teaching and sharing knowledge. The boy was only 16, but already sharper than most grown men. One evening, as the sun began to set, they arrived at the great city of Benares. But alas, the massive city gates had already been shut for the night. "Where will we sleep tonight?" worried the father. The boy spotted a large building outside the city walls. "We can shelter there," he said. But a guard shook his head. "That place is haunted," he warned. "A goblin lives inside. Anyone who stays the night never comes out the same." The boy smiled bravely. Then it is a good thing I brought my wits along, he said, and led his father inside the dark, dusty building. Father and son settled into the old building, spreading their mats on the stone floor. High up in the dark rafters, unseen by them, crouched a goblin with glowing yellow eyes. This goblin had been given a special power by the goblin king Vesavana. He could gobble up anyone who heard a sneeze but failed to say long life to you. The goblin grinned wickedly and began sprinkling magical dust through the air. The magical dust tickled the father's nose and acho. He let out a tremendous sneeze. In a flash, the wise boy called out, "Long life to you, dear father. May you live 100 years and 20 more. Up in the rafters, the goblin froze. His magical power was broken. He could not touch the father now. Growling with frustration, the goblin crawled down from the ceiling and revealed himself, his yellow eyes blazing with anger. Backslash 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 who are you? The boy asked calmly, showing no fear. And why do you haunt this place? The goblin was surprised. No one had ever spoken to him so bravely. Slowly, his anger faded, and sadness took its place. I am cursed, the goblin said with a heavy sigh. Long ago, I did terrible things, and now I am trapped here as punishment, forced to live alone in darkness, feared by all. The wise boy sat down and spoke gently to the goblin. Listen, friend. The bad things you did in the past brought you to this sad place. But that does not mean you must stay like this forever. If you stop hurting others and start being kind, you can break free from this darkness. Every good deed is a step toward the light. The goblin's yellow eyes grew wide. No one had ever called him friend before. No one had ever told him he could change. Tears welled up in the goblin's big yellow eyes. You really think I can change? He asked in a small voice. I know you can, said the boy firmly. Promise me you will never harm anyone again, and I will help you find a new life. The goblin fell to his knees. I promise, he whispered. No more scaring. No more hurting. I want to be kind. And from that moment, the darkness in the old building seemed to lift, replaced by a warm, gentle glow. When the king of Benares heard how the brave boy had tamed the fearsome goblin with nothing but wisdom and kindness, he was so impressed that he made the boy his chief advisor. The reformed goblin was given an honest job helping travelers find safe lodging. And from that day forward, whenever anyone sneezed, people would call out long life to you. A custom that spread across the land, all because one clever boy knew that the greatest power is not strength, but a kind word spoken at the right time. Moral: a kind word spoken at the right time holds more power than any weapon. The merchant who became a hermit. Long ago, in the bustling city of Benares, there lived a kind merchant named Sudama. He was known throughout the land for his honesty and goodness. People would say, Sudama is the most virtuous man in all of Benares. He lived happily with his beloved wife Sundari in a fine house filled with laughter and love. One morning, Sudama went to the royal palace to pay his respects to the king. While he was away, his wife's mother arrived for a surprise visit. The old woman was kind and loving, but she could not hear very well. She had to lean in close and cup her ear whenever someone spoke to her. Over tea and sweets, the mother asked her daughter, Tell me, dear, does your husband treat you well? Are you happy together? Sundari laughed and replied proudly, Oh mother, you could hardly find a holy hermit who is as good and virtuous as my Sudama. But her mother's old ears only caught a few words. She heard Hermit and Sudama and jumped to her feet in alarm. What? Your husband has become a hermit, she cried. Before Sundari could explain, her mother rushed out of the house, wailing loudly. Oh, what terrible news. Sudama has given up everything to become a hermit, she told the neighbors. The neighbors told their friends, the friends told the shopkeepers, and soon the entire city of Benares was buzzing with the news. Did you hear? The great merchant Sudama has left his home and become a holy hermit. When Sudama returned from the palace, a friend stopped him on the road. Is it true, Sudama? Have you really given up your home to become a hermit? Sudama was baffled. What are you talking about? He asked. The whole city is saying you have renounced the world, his friend exclaimed. Sudama shook his head in disbelief. But then he paused and thought deeply. Perhaps this rumor is a sign, Siddhartha said to himself. All my life I have tried to be good and virtuous. People already believe I have chosen the holy path. Maybe this is the universe telling me it is time to seek something greater than wealth, to seek true wisdom and inner peace. A calm smile spread across his face. The misunderstanding had planted a seed of truth in his heart. Siddhartha went straight to the king and bowed. Your Majesty, I have served you faithfully as a merchant for many years. Now I wish to seek a higher purpose. I ask your permission to become a hermit and live in the mountains. The king was surprised but saw the peace and determination in Siddhartha's eyes. Go with my blessing, good Siddhartha, the king said. May you find the wisdom you seek. Siddhartha gave away all his wealth to the poor, said a loving goodbye to his wife and family, and walked barefoot into the green Himalayan mountains. There, among the trees and streams, he found the peace he had been seeking. He spent his days in meditation and kindness, and became one of the wisest hermits the world had ever known. And it all began with a simple misunderstanding and the wisdom to see a sign where others saw only a mistake. Moral: a wise person sees opportunity in every situation, and a good reputation is worth living up to.